Hello, nuclear enthusiasts. Welcome back. I'm Leonidas. This is Nucleares. And tonight, what I'm going to be doing is walking you through a shutdown. I'm loading into a stable running reactor. Actually, it just came back from an emergency. I was running, and as a catastrophe, a random catastrophe, we lost some electrical conduits that we had to go repair. And because of those, our generator was tripped and spun down in this load. We have just spun it back up. It's just started running, so we aren't quite at the normal thermal balance where we'd be, but it is up and running, and it'll work for our purposes. I am using my high pressure run. If you aren't familiar with that, you can go check my other YouTube videos, and it'll explain a little bit more about it and why I use it and its efficiency. But the principles will remain the same of how we want to go about conducting the shutdown. So the first thing we're going to do, let's send AO back home. Okay. I have an actual checklist that I go through as I am trying to remember each of these things on this desk next to me. Whatever method works for you. If nothing else, you can always come back to this video to remind yourself how to do this. But this would be if you're going to add fuel. That's actually what I was shutting this down to do, is add another fuel bank. If you needed to do maintenance, certain things like loading fuel, you have to actually shut down the core so you can remove the external water, well, to do it safely. You might need to work on some of the components if you only have one loop running. For whatever reason, we're just going to go through an entire plant shutdown and go cold. So let's get that started. We're going to start off by requesting our shutdown from the city. When we request a startup, the time that they give us is next hour. So if we were requesting a startup, they would give us 12 o'clock. During that 12 o'clock hour, if we don't meet our compliance, that's okay. They don't penalize us for it. If we do meet it, we don't gain anything extra. They don't give us any points. That's just a wash. They don't hold it against us, and we don't get anything for meeting it. Similar with the shutdown. Instead of giving us the next hour like they do for a startup, they'll give us the hour after next. So they're going to give us 1300, and we do not need to meet our compliance during the 12 o'clock hour, which is nice. So as soon as we get our compliance for this hour, we can go ahead and start with our process. So we've requested that time from the city. It should come back any moment. We'll wait for that. But knowing we're going to get it, oh, there it is, 1300 as expected. And normally I would do this at a different time of day, not in the middle of the day when demand is typically going to be highest. I would do it in the middle of the night when we have that long lull. And it's kind of the realism / role playing, or as real as you can get in Nucleares. But you can do it anytime you want. So let's go ahead and start working our way through our checklist. So we have the okay from the city. We're going to switch our operating mode to shutdown.
Operating mode established. Shutdown mode.
This changes the threshold of some of the alarms, and it also allows us to do certain things that we couldn't. It removes certain lockouts that we would have under nominal mode. So we start off by switching to shutdown mode. We then turn on external power because we're going to be powering down our turbine and won't be supplying power to ourselves. We're also going to turn our generators to manual. If we leave them on automatic, they will turn on even though we're receiving power from the city. So we switch that, then we're about ready to go. So we are going to start by making sure our resistors are on. In this case, they are because we had just started up. We will make sure our steam bypass is set. Our pumps are all running. Okay, so we're all good. So we're going to start by cooling down the reactor. We're going to insert our rods to 100. Start that process, stopping right away. We're then going to come over and we're going to trip. You can hear the clicking of the control rods. We're then going to trip our turbine, and I do that through my bypass. So as that spins up, the steam that's being generated from the steam generator will go around the turbine and is vented right back into the condenser. So, oh, that was pretty quick because we're on fast mode, so I might slow it down. And it's still showing that we need demand from the city, which is why the synchroscope is spinning, but we won't. Again, if we had waited till the 1300 hour, we wouldn't have gained any extra experience points. So it's okay to shut it down at this point. So we're no longer generating electricity. This is shutting down. Everything's being absorbed by, well, oh, we forgot to open our circuit breaker. My mistake. Now everything's going to be absorbed by the resistor panel. I guess I should actually follow my checklist instead of trying to go off my memory here. Okay, so we have spun down. We're no longer producing anything, and we are all set to go. That was a quick shutdown on our turbine. We're now starting to cool our reactor core. To speed that process up, we're going to move our primary cooling pump to 100. We're going to make sure that we're not getting too hot over on our condenser. So just so we can set it and forget it, we're going to put that at 25. We're going to open up our MSCV a little bit so that maximum steam can escape out that bypass. And we're just going to let everything cool down. We want to increase this level. And the way we do that is by increasing our coolant speed. So we're actually going to put that at medium. And what that's going to do is as the system cools down, we will be taking steam that is turned in, it goes back to water, and this level is going to rise. We start out with this level ideally at 50,000. The reason for that is because as we start and we turn this water into steam, this is going to drop a significant amount, thousands of liters, tens of thousands of liters. We need to have enough in here to absorb that. If we start out, if we shut down our pumps when they're at the, say, what are they at now? 14 is not too bad, but if it was lower than that, when we try to start up, that we're not going to be able to absorb that big drop, and we're going to empty out our steam generator. We're going to burn up all the water. We're going to burn up our pumps. So we want to get some of that back, which is what we're doing now. We're going to see a rise in pressure that'll eventually start coming down. It is now. Our temperature should start coming down. It is already. So we are on our way to cooling down and shutting down our generator. This is, our reactor. Our coolant's still spinning up, our primary coolant pump. That will help this to drop very quickly. Our rods are in, stopping all reactivity. When this gets down to 50, it will mark it as safe. Actually 49. We'll get the notice that it's safe and that we can start doing things like removing fuel, opening hatches, removing the cooling fluids, liquids, water in this case, and such. So we are watching our temperature here. We're almost below 100. We have stopped generating steam, but we're still going to leave this open to vent. Same with the bypass. And now we're keeping an eye on this. We can burn out, or overload our pump if we let this get too high. So really, ideally, we're going to wait till it gets kind of to the top of the green and then shut it off. And that's to help prepare for when we start it up again, so it'll have enough to absorb that giant drop in the beginning. Our condenser's easily staying at a low 20s. I don't think it can ever go lower than 20 degrees maybe. Our reactor core is still dropping. Again, we're looking for 50 there. And now we are in the shutdown process. We are on our way there. This is a very simple process as long as you follow the step-by-step. So we'll keep an eye on this. Again, our pressure will drop. This should get down to around, it'll get single digits, probably around 8, 7, maybe 6%. This number will drop and kind of bottom out at some point, probably around the 40s. It'll sort of depend on whatever the core temperature's at. You can see that those are kind of related. So this continues the climb. We'll be shutting down. What we could do is as soon as this drops below 100, we can shut off our secondary pump. The only reason I have this running is to try and continue filling this from our condenser. That's not filling much. So we are just turning that steam back into water within the system itself, which is why we got to be careful about overloading it. So we'll let that continue to go. We should be close to 50. We're getting down. It's not dropping as fast anymore, but we are still working the cooling process. Shows we're now disconnected because we are in the 1300 hour. They're not requesting anything from us, so we're on our way. We're getting pretty close. Check our pressure. Perhaps when I get down to about 10, I might shut the pump off because again, I don't want to damage it. Now's a good time to actually turn AO on and have him start doing his preventative maintenance. I could have done that as soon as I started the process because it takes him a little while to do it. But we'll have him go do that so we can have a fresh set of maintenance tasks for him to complete after our shutdown.
The reactor has lost critical mass reactivity.
Okay.
Its state is changed to non-reactive.
Okay, so we got below that 50% mark. So now we are safe to shut down the primary pump. So we're going to actually move this down to 15 because wherever it's set, when you shut it off, that's what it'll start up.
The reactor core coolant has stopped circulating.
Now this does have lag, so this is going to keep spooling down. So the water, the coolant will still keep moving. So we're pretty close to where we want to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and shut off that pump. I should have spun it down. We will put it at 45. I think that went to 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. Yeah, we'll leave it right there for when we start up next time. Same with our condenser. We don't need it running, so we'll spool it down. And again, you could leave these running. There's nothing wrong with it, except that if you need to perform maintenance on them, you're going to have to turn them off anyway. We will leave our MSCV open, leave our bypass open, and that's part of our checklist to turn those off before we start it up and get our generator turned on again. So we're going to turn off our resistor bank. We're not generating any electricity. Same with our pressurizer. Now that we're not cooling anymore, we're going to head turn off the heaters so that can start cooling and AO can perform his maintenance. If we needed to do anything with the fuel or we needed to service the core, we would need to remove all the water out of this giant tank known as the external core. And so to do that, we come to our core pool tank and we set it to remove. Nope, other way. There we are. And we're going to watch this drop. Once this gets to 0, then we can, or close to 0, because there is that lag. When you turn it off, it takes a while to spool down and it will keep moving water through it, through the pipes and such. So you don't want to wait to 0 to turn it off, because then you're kind of running it dry. You're overloading it a little bit. So this is going to be dropping and this is going to be rising. This will overfill. That's not a problem. This 80,000 liters, it will just spill off into the atmosphere. No worries. Radioactive water coming from a cooling pump out into the ocean. What could possibly go wrong? But don't worry about it getting higher than this level. It'll always max out at 80,000. At least for this version. I should have said that in the beginning. This is version 2.2. And this is patch 175. Any earlier versions before 2.2 will look very different from this. The process still works the same, but it's going to look different, so a couple of steps might change. Anything after 175, there could also, the fix 175 or patch 175 also might be a little different. But in this case, we're ready to go. I'm going to speed things up to move our core pump along. We can drain that a little faster and open our hatches. If we come look out the window, we can actually see the water decreasing. Those pumps work pretty well. You can actually upgrade those pumps. I believe if we go machines and upgrades, freight pumps, core cooling circuit, no. Condenser cooling, no. External core container, no. External circuit, I believe it's this one. And we can increase the power on this, which would mean that it will fill and draw faster. Internal primary, external primary reservoir. Yep, it's this one right here. So we could increase the power. It'll tell us we can't do it. Oh, normally it tells us we can't do it because it's running. So maybe I'm doing the wrong one. But you can upgrade that if you have the money for it. Internal primary reservoir, is it this one? Oh, okay. I'm not exactly sure which pump it is, but normally it tells us if it's something that's running, it'll tell us no, you can't do that. It has to be either turned off. You can't use it, do the upgrade because it's in use, or because it's severely damaged. Okay, so we're getting close. If we tried to open it now, slow it down, it will tell us it's flooded. So if we go to, we've selected one here, or it's selected, we can tell because of the little arrow, the home base symbol. We will isolate the bay. It wouldn't let us do that if we were in nominal mode. And if I try to open the hatch, it'll probably tell me that it's flooded. Oh, I lied. So apparently you don't have to reduce it all the way, just below. That is a new feature. So
Security alert. Primary circuit pumps have been disabled. There are open hatches or floodgates.
Okay, there you go. So we set off an alarm, open hatch or gates. So it doesn't let the pump move anymore because they don't want water to flood in there, so we'll acknowledge it. Normally you can wait till that gets to 0, but it let us do it. So once it's below, I guess, the upper level, that's new. I just figured that out, just learned that just now. Under the 2.0 version, the old reactor, you had to have that at 0. If there was anything, any trace of water in there, if you were at 1%, then it would tell you, nope, sorry, it's flooded, you can't do it. So we'll go ahead and close the hatch because we don't need it open at this point. That's how we would load or unload fuel. If we needed to load number 2, we'll select number 2. Isolate the bay, which means we'll move the pedestal up. Wait until it is
Maintenance report is complete. Now
safe.
you can check
The
it
hatch
from
is
your
safe.
tablet.
It is, and we will now open it. It'll probably give us another warning. We'll wait for it to say that it's open. It is, hooray. So now what we're going to do is first, this is just me. I like to install the control rods first. I feel that's kind of important. So I'm going to install them all around here. And we will use that basket. I'm then going to come over and I'm going to this, so you know this says 50. It's because it's an average. We have some that are at 100 and some that are 0. So this is an average of all the control rod banks regardless of what you have selected. So please keep that in mind. I'm going to turn that one off, turn this one on, so I'm only controlling that. I have 100 selected, so I'll just hit set and we'll see that this should start moving. It turns yellow because it's moving. We can hear it click. Maybe. This one I don't hear clicking, oddly. But we can see it out the window. Oh, now we hear the clicks. Okay, there you go. So the sliding into place, so I'm going to wait till that slides into place before I actually load my fuel. And speed that up a little bit. If you're in a rush, you may not need this and you could just do it, but I am playing it safe. It shows me that I'm locked out, right? The blinking red lights. Taking a little while, but we're getting in there. We could speed that up by changing our engine power. I might do that now. Again, just for the purpose of this video, let's go 125. Okay, move a little bit faster. We're getting there, we're getting there. Safety first, folks, right? That's why we gotta have the rods inserted. Okay, if disaster comes, it comes, but I don't want to wait any longer. So we'll go ahead and pretend that those are already at 100. We then go back and to our tablet, operational tasks, install fuel. I select which one that I want. In this case, they're all the same. I select which bay. I'd highly recommend putting in the same bay where you've installed your control rods. Confirm it, and it's done. No more crane and arm like from the last reactor. It's just an instance process. Red means that it is raised up in the upper part of the core. It's been isolated. So in order to move it down, we need to close the hatch. So we have 2 selected with the arrow, close the hatch. It'll tell us that it's closed. There we are. And now we can load the fuel.
Shutdown mode.
Oh, yes. Okay, so it won't let us load it until we switch to nominal mode. There's one of those lockouts I was talking about. So it keeps it kind of in a safe place. So we'll leave it there. Our control rods are now in at 100. We'll turn this back to where it was. And there you go. You are ready to send AO on his merry way doing the maintenance tasks. Just know that some of these maintenance tasks, if you select them, they can automatically time warp the game. So if you have a pump running, when you select these, it will time warp. What I have found from my experience is that the only ones who do it are the ones where it says for time, it just says off. Meaning that the whole system has to be off. None of those say off right now, so if I select them all, it's about 2 hours worth and I hit accept. AO is going to go do it. There's no time warp. Now I can do it myself, and I can hit T for time, click this last one here, and say how many hours? Well, 2 hours, because that's how long it's going to take them. The time warps, and look, it tells me it's done. Outstanding. So now I need to find a way to reset that. That is a good question. How am I going to do that? I guess if I go nominal mode.
New operating mode established. Nominal mode.
Will it unlock me out? If I go load, what's it going to do? Whoops. Yep, now it'll let me. Okay. And the alarm went off. So it just had to kind of reset itself. So now we're loading our outer vessel back up. We'll hear it. Go three speed. And away we go. And you're good to go. So anyway, there you go. There's your shutdown from a running reactor to cold, ready to do maintenance. The first thing we do is to go through the steps quickly again is we request a shutdown time. We change our mode to shutdown mode. We insert our control rods at 100. We begin the bypass of our turbine to start shutting it down right away, or I guess when the appropriate time. You insert your control rods at 100 to begin, oh, we already did that, to begin cooling. We set our primary pump to 100 to help expedite the cooling of our core. We then set our condenser at 25 just to make sure that everything's cool, kind of set it, forget it. We're keeping an eye then on our steam generator. Once it gets below 100, we can shut this off if we want. I let it keep going just to build up that residual coolant volume in there for when I start the plant up again. But do note that not all the pressure is gone. You can vent that out if you want to, if you need to, through these pressure relief valves. And then we just wait. And once everything is cool and it's below 50 degrees over here, we can remove the outer core water if we want to. Don't forget that we need to shut down our pressurizer if that needs to be serviced, and we shut down all our pumps. So there you go. Again, I'm Leonidas. This has been a shutdown of the reactor, the whole reactor, not just the loop, but everything. I hope it's been useful. Leave a comment if you have any requests, questions, if I did something wrong. And thanks for stopping by. We'll see you again soon.